in a world of uncertainty.
River's jizzing in his pants, and then you bring up your wife in the next sentence. Like, I know where we're going. What is going on?
There is only one place you can turn for fair dinkum advice.
1 word, unbelievable. 2 words, holy shit. 3 words, oh my god.
A place where the undeniably American
It sounds so weird in like an Australian accent.
meets the undeniably Aussie.
Hey, let's stop the foreskinning for some absolutely wonderful segments later.
Where the analysis is solid
I, for one, was not one of those haters, as I picked a Rams victory.
Look, I think he can get over 150 yards in this game, easily.
Kick his ass, Taylor Bass!
and everything else is out to kill you.
There's going to be shrinking nutsacks all over the place.
Welcome to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
G'day and welcome to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Matty C is my name, and I'm joined by me mates, the Manjot, the myth, the legend, and Taylor. Star of Taylor Talk. Say g'day, fellas.
G'day.
G'day, fellas.
I knew you would do that.
I knew you would.
knew you would say it. One of you had to, because yeah. I was going to be disappointed.
And I'm the smart ass. I'm the smart ass of the group.
Firstly, let me tell you all where you can find us to ask fantasy questions, play games with us, interact with us. We are on YouTube and Instagram at Aussie NFL Fantasy. Our email address too is on here, AussieNFLFantasy@gmail.com. To English, it's almost like it's my second language. You can also find us on Anchor FM at Aussie NFL Fantasy. And guys, we're on TikTok now. We're on TikTok now, and Manjot's creating amazing content for us on TikTok. So find us there,
And
Aussie NFL Fantasy.
Look out, me and Nathan Cleary doing TikTok dances all day, baby.
Do you reckon you'll
me and
rival
Juju?
Juju? Yeah, that's the thing.
Me and
Can you
Juju.
rival
Me
me
and Jackson. Me and Jackson, right?
Jackson. It's going to
Keep
be
it
Matty
out
and
of
Jackson.
I'm
Anyway,
keeping it out of this. Before we get too far in, though, we've done this every episode since we've started the show, and I'd like to continue the tradition of acknowledging the first landowners of the places in which we're dialing in from. It's an Aussie thing to do for those who aren't from Australia, and those from Australia, you'll be very familiar with it. Manjot and I are meeting today on Ngunnawal land, and Taylor from Darawal land, and I'd like to acknowledge the elders there, past, present, emerging, and pay respect to the traditional landholders of these lands. These days, they've got slightly more modern and different names, but it is important to, I think it's really important to acknowledge the first landowners.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Manjot,
We all love seeing Matty C lose in starts of the week. We're making
Yes,
it
we
return.
do.
Myth,
I've mossed him one too many times, and he's like, nope, I'm done. Okay, 1 big ones are done.
Legend,
You know, I'm holding my breath. You know, my heart is my mouth. Like, my heart, like, traveled straight up, just like that kick. You know, it travels straight up into my mouth. My innocent brain has just died. It was like, Jimmy, just don't mess this up. Did anyone, like, notice that? Like,
Aussie NFL Fantasy.
that's what I was going to say in the GOAT segment, but I just forgot to say it. That's how life is as a 49ers fan. You know, can I make a bold claim? Look, Matty, I want to hear what you have to say. Like, just,
No, you don't.
want to know. Oh.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
We have talked quarterbacks, we've talked running backs, and it's time to talk tight ends. It's a position that leaves Taylor's end. What do you say, Taylor? What do you say here? It leaves your end something.
Leaves my end far. It's far from tight. It's definitely
it's
very
far.
loose.
I'm tight this year.
Beautiful. There's been a bit of water under the bridge since the last show too, so we are all just charged with energy because we have not had the chance to be just idiots in front of each other for about a month. So I think it's time to get a fucking start.
I've still been an idiot, just not on camera.
Very good. I have too.
Yes,
My poor wife. I think it's time to look at these rankings pretty seriously. I mean, there's not a lot to know about the very top of tight end. Would everyone agree here? We can see our consensus rankings. The top couple, we agree on a fair bit right at the top. Taylor?
I would say the top two could probably be up for debate.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
Just their order. Like, I reckon there'll be a lot of people on Mark Andrews and a lot of people on Kelsey. I think it's going to be pretty split. I'll be interested to see who it ends up being. I think Mark Andrews might get the nod, maybe just in terms of, I think he'll be the one that people want to draft more, because I think Kelsey will probably end up being the one that goes probably late first, early second, and Mark Andrews might be just behind him in ADP. But I think people are going to want to take the value one out of the two. I think they're very close to each other as well. I split them purely because if Kelsey didn't lose Tyreek Hill, I reckon I probably would have gone with Mark Andrews slightly, but I think with those extra vacated targets in Kansas City, I think that kind of just gave me the nod for Kelsey, just being the one guy there that Patrick Mahomes knows, so and trusts in that offense. So, but I could see a reason why someone would go Mark Andrews too. I think it's really, really close.
Well, let me introduce you to the guy who liked Mark Andrews. His name's Manjot. He's right here with us. He joins us on the show every time we meet. Manjot, you've seen this a little differently, and I'd love to know why Mark Andrews got the nod for you.
Look, firstly, Andrews is pretty much Lamar's only target in that offense. Rashad Bateman's there. They've got good running backs too, but they've got, it's Mark Andrews's offense at this point, and I think he's going to get a very good target share. The other factor I'm looking at is age. Now, I don't want to discredit Kelsey because of his age. I want to be ageist or anything, but he is getting a little bit older. I think he's 33 or 34 this year.
He was an old rookie. That was the weird bit. He was an old rookie. Yeah. So he's just kind of advanced in his career.
He was a late breakout age.
Yeah, he is. And for me, I just think Andrews, he's 28, so he's in his prime. I think these are his prime years. I think he will be T1 because I think he's in his prime, whereas Kelsey might be on a decline. I'm a little worried about Kelsey because it's just, he's lost Tyreek, which also means there'll be more coverage on him. While Taylor says, yes, there'll be more of a target share, there'll also be more coverage onto Kelsey. I reckon teams at this stage will be like, oh, let's double team Kelsey. I know Juju's still there, but Juju's not Tyreek. You're not going to double team Juju, but you're going to double team Kelsey. Whereas Andrews, I can see get some double teams, but not as much as Kelsey. So it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to be tight end one. So I went with Andrews just cause one, I wanted to mess up the rankings a little bit. I just wanted to be a bit of a misbehaving child there. Number two, hilarious. I just actually believe in all of these things. So, I actually do believe in what I just said. So
So I just had one slight thing as well I thought about with Andrews. I forgot to mention there. I do think Baltimore's pass offense takes a back step from last year because they were so pass heavy compared to being so run heavy the year before. Well, probably the 5 years before, really, because they had to. They had no running backs. Like they were basically trotting out anyone they could, like bringing out anyone off practice squads or anyone they could basically find from the street to be their running back because they just got destroyed in that position before the season even started. So that I felt like they had to pass more, but it wasn't actually something that they wanted to do. They basically got forced into it, which worries me a little bit this year if they get Dobbins and Gus Edwards back. I think they may lean on the run a bit more, which probably drops Mark Andrews' volume a bit. But again, it's not enough for me to say that Mark Andrews has no chance of being the one. I'm not sitting here trying to, hammer Mark Andrews or anything. It was just things like that which slightly took me to Kelsey. But, it doesn't bother me at all which one goes one. I think, they could flip-flop for sure.
So I guess at this pointy end of tight end, we're saying, man, so take your pick. Probably neither are wrong, and certainly between the three of us, I could be convinced either way too. I put Kelsey one because I've just seen it. I've seen it, and I feel good about it. And I think there's a great chance I don't own Kelsey in any league anyway because I just don't take tight end that early generally. Yeah. Because for me, it's like quarterback. If I don't get the first one, I'm happy to get the last one. And I rarely get the first one. So, for me, ranking them, it's important to do it because I think, the idea is here we give advice. For me personally, in the way I play it, it's just not as important of a position to me. And it's probably to my own detriment because it's a player like Kelsey or a player like Andrews can give you a weekly advantage at a position of rarity. So, this may be standing between me and actually winning. So, maybe this is the year to mix it up and actually follow my own rankings and go after it. But what I will be interested in is when we have a crack at a mock draft next time round, once we've got all the positional rankings done and we do our way too early mock drafts, that's going to be wild to see where some of these guys go.
Absolutely.
We're pretty consensus again through these next couple of about who was where, but none of us really kind of landed exactly in the same spots. We wound up with Kittle as our number 3 consensus because, well, we all ranked him 3 or 4. Manjot, he's your boy, but he's not your boy. What? Explain yourself.
All right, I have to explain again. I know I'm going very off cuff today. We were just talking before about how I was always in the middle, Manjot in the middle. But now I'm misbehaving, Manjot, or whatever the hell you want.
Manjot in the arse end, I think. Taylor called you for the playoffs.
Yeah, that might be me today, Manjot in the arse end. But look, Kittle, I'd rank him number 1 best tight end overall. But like fantasy, he's not really as much of a fantasy value as much as he was in 2018. I think the Niners this year is going to be very interesting. Our offense is very different with using Kittle. He could be either, getting 1 million receiving yards, or he could be blocking 1 million times. So that's why I'm a little less on Kittle's hype wagon, because I think Kittle is going to block a bit more this year. We've got a few good running backs coming up through. I think Shanahan will want to use a few running backs. We drafted and signed some offensive linemen here and there. I think this is a year where the Niners running back core can really develop. So I think Shanahan, also there's the Debo factor as well. Debo is going to get a lot of touches. He's staying, hopefully. That's what I'm hearing.
It's looking like,
staying. Yeah. Ayuk might also be a big factor. But where Kittle's value is going to be is, I think, the catch and run sort of situation. Those deep passes, Trey will look to him as like a safety net. So I think with Trey, we have to see his development as well. So I went with Waller over Kittle because Carr's a more proven QB. I know Devontae is there, and Devontae is going to take a few targets away, but that can also help him because he's going to take away some of the coverage as well. So that's where I'm seeing. That's where the sort of, you have a good wide receiver next to you when you're tight end. That's the sort of two-edged sword. You can lose targets, but you can also gain in losing good coverage guys against you. So you can play against lesser coverage guys. That's where I'm seeing most of these
tight ends. They line up split. They don't bolt themselves onto the line every time. This was the big Jimmy Graham argument when he was trying to get a franchise tag reassessed for him as a wide receiver, because he was making the argument he lines up split off the end well over a majority of time. And so he's like, well, am I really a tight end? Why am I not getting, the wide receiver sort of money? And this is like, I think Waller is a great example of that. He is often split from the line. And I think it's just a way of giving him one-on-ones. And now you've got to worry about having Devontae Adams on the other side. So look, I definitely understand the Waller argument. Tay, though, you a true believer in George Kittle, unlike my boy Manjot here, explain your rationale for getting Kittle ahead of Waller then, because we've seen it the other way around, but what's in your mind?
Again, I can completely see it being the other way around too. I'm not a real strong, firm believer of Kittle being enormously better than Waller. And it's funny this year, right? You sort of had a huge tear break after the third tight end went off the board last year.
Yeah.
You basically had Kittle, Waller in that sort of top echelon with Kelsey. Whereas this year, to me, it's just Kelsey and Andrews, and then it really falls off quickly. Like there's reasons why you're not really as excited on Kittle or Waller as you were last year.
Yeah.
Obviously Kittle, a lot of reasons Manjot just sort of said, like new quarterback, a team that runs the ball a lot and will probably continue to do so. And then you've obviously got Waller as well that has Devontae Adams come in. And I can also see that being a bit of a positive too for the whole offense. But in general, Waller, when he has his best games, is when he just gets absolutely peppered with targets. Like, was a week one last year, we had like 19 targets or something. Yeah. It was insane. Like, he's clearly got a bit of a mind meld there with Carr. So that does worry me a bit. Like, he's going to have to be way more efficient this year than he was last year. So that's enough to drop him at least into this tier. But look, honestly, I'm not going to stand here and say I like Kittle so much more than Waller. They were definitely 3 and 4, 4 and 3. But it's really, really close between those two. I was sort of splitting hairs a bit. I do like Lance. I think that's a bit of, I'm taking my shot that I think Lance is actually going to be a pretty decent quarterback. His passing might take some time, though. I guess that's what another issue with Kittle. But I just think in general that the team's going to be quite good. And even if they do run the ball a lot, I think that's going to get them in the red zone a bit. And I just think that's going to give a guy like Kittle plenty of opportunities to have the touchdowns that he's going to need to have to be up there. So I'm just taking my shot that he's just going to be a higher echelon tight end, and I'm just going to put him slightly in front of Waller, but I'm not trying to bury Waller either.
I mean, I think it all makes sense at this stage. If you're not Kittles or if you're not Kelsey or Andrews, then you're just not in the top 2, and that's fine. And everyone else underneath it is probably really quite good. But like so many tight ends, they're just going to rely on the touchdowns, where you don't necessarily have to rely on that because of the volume of the top couple. I mean, so this is where I differed from you guys, and I'm like, well, how about Noxkowski? Why isn't Dawson Knox up in this bit? And I've kind of dragged his rating up a little bit by putting him as my 4th and Waller as my 5th. In the wash, it still means that Knox comes in as the 5th in the tight end, and it makes me the biggest believer in him. But it's not like we're sprayed all over the place with where we're ranking these guys. Manjot, you've got Dawson Knox 5, Manjot in the middle. Welcome back. Taylor, you got him at 6. So we all kind of believe that he belongs with this tier as well. Taylor, I'm going to throw to you, being the AFC side of things and having had a good look at the Bills' offense change in the offseason here. What do you think it is about Knox that puts him 6th for you?
Look, when you're getting to this sort of part of tight end, you're just looking for opportunity and awesome offense. Like, honestly, it completely changes. It's not even so much about the player specifically. It's, hey, he's at the Bills. He's got Josh Allen throwing to him, one of the highest volume passing offenses in the league. That really is all you need. Like, when it comes to tight end, it is so much about opportunity, more so than the actual talent of the player. And that's not me trying to drag down Dawson Knox as a player. It's just the fact that you have to have him up there because of the opportunity in the team. It's plain and simple. Like, there's honestly not much else more to say. Like, this team throws so much that there's going to be opportunities. You've seen plenty of multi-touchdown games for Dawson Knox just because they're there so often. So, it's also, it's a team that doesn't seem, unless it's Josh Allen running the ball in, they don't seem to really give it to their running backs to run the ball in. So there just always seems to be an opportunity in the end zone for someone. And you obviously saw Emmanuel Sanders go. Seen Cole Beasley. Sorry, he hasn't gone yet, but it seems like there's a good opportunity. Probably might retire. But you've also seen Cole Beasley go. Like, there's guys go out of that receiving core as well. I can't see why Dawson Knox isn't up there just because of the team he's in. That's honestly all the analysis I really need.
Yeah, Beasley did get cut.
Yes, he did
as well.
But then, Sanders, that was a big part of me ranking him a little higher, is that Emmanuel Sanders is just such a Swiss Army knife, and he's an intelligent player, very patchy fantasy-wise, where I think he and Knox you couldn't have either of them have a good day on the same day. And now without Emmanuel Sanders, I just sort of forecast, well, maybe that just means Knox has a few better days. I mean, we saw the emergence of Gabriel Davis and the 30 million touchdown game that he had against Kansas City. Oh, my God, what a game. So, I can see there's a lot of trust there from Allen to him. But no, I'm a big believer in Dawson Knox. The Atlanta offense, though, What do we even know about this Atlanta offense? I'm going to throw this to Manjot because he's the man in red. He's the NFC guy. How's Kyle Pitts going to fit into this offense? What do we expect from Atlanta, and why have we got Pitts all at sort of 6 and 7 each?
It's interesting. It's a very interesting spot for Pitts because on the one hand, I kind of want to rank him above Knox because he could get more opportunities than Knox. But on the other hand, look at the QBs. He's going to have Desmond Ridder pretty much throwing to him. By mid-season, if Desmond Ridder isn't ready, I can't remember. Who is it? Is it like Blaine Gabbert or something? Like,
that's in front of him.
Yeah, I got to remember.
He's having a crack at Taylor. This is 100% having a shot at Taylor's melon here. Go on, Taylor. Kick his butt. He's picking a 5'6" guy.
Yeah, of course, man. I forgot about Mariota, man.
You did not forget.
I was going to say Pitts is praying against Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
It's 100% Manjot trolling you, Taylor. It's 100%.
Yeah. And he can troll away because I've been off the Mariota train for a while.
Okay, I
don't know. That jersey still fits you like a glove, baby.
Jeez, yeah. Like a sausage getting stuffed into it. Yeah.
Well, maybe like OJ's glove, but not like an actual glove.
Going to OJ's glove. Wow.
Just got us cancelled that.
This has got serious.
All right, we're cancelled, so we can say whatever we want now.
Well, thank goodness Manjot's our crack legal mind. You'll get us out of this, mate.
I always get us out of this. All my law studies get us out of this.
100%.
But hey, look, Desmond Ridder, absolutely. He's got to be starting by mid-season. He's very much a project QB. He's not really got that sort of big game sort of thing, but people are liking his physical skills, kind of like Trey Lance, but a lower round Trey Lance, essentially. That's where I'm seeing Desmond Ridder. He's been pretty highly ranked up the boards, though. People were seeing him as a potential first rounder, and he dropped to the third round to them. But on to Pitts. Now he's going to get a high volume from Mariota, and every time we're going to mention Mariota.
God bless you, Manjot. God bless you.
He's going to get all 9 throwing attempts from Mariota. All 9.
Yeah, all of them going to Pitts because they have literally Garrett Wilson Drake London. Sorry,
Drake
my
London,
bad.
yeah.
Was looking at too many mock drafts that I missed the actual draft. Yeah, they got Brian Edwards now. And Olamide Zacchaeus, who we answered on Weddle back in the day.
We got him in 4 goes on Weddle hard. Yeah, that's extraordinary.
All Matty. It was all Matty.
Damn, boy.
Yeah, but it was just great. But to see that receiving core, look, they're gonna force feed Pitts, all those receptions, all those targets, all going to Pitts. So,
well, is it that he's clearly the best target, or is it that you're now starting with either Mariota, a rookie, or a rookie throwing to a rookie, and you just don't trust it as much as you trust it? Like, what's the thinking
rookie,
behind?
Yeah, rookie throwing to another youngster. Yeah, it'd be hard because Pitts did show a lot last year, though, and he can be one of these generational tight ends that the Falcons got at number 4. You don't drop tight ends too high.
He's going to have to be. Like, if he's going to pay off the number 4 pick.
He can make that generational tight end sort of leap into that sort of tier. That's what I'm saying. But currently in fantasy, I wouldn't take him as high as the other 5, but I'd put him pretty high. If you get him, you should be pretty happy, I reckon.
It's like one of those mid-roundy sort of guys. Now, Manjot and I are at 6. Taylor, why do you hate Kyle Pitts? You've ranked him at 7. No love for Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts is the hardest tight end to rank because his range of outcomes is all over the place. Like, would I be shocked to see him get in the top 2 because of his freakish talent? No. Would I be shocked if he ends up timing 15 because the Atlanta offense is an absolute steaming pile of turd? No, I wouldn't be worried either. Like, it could be anywhere in between there. I have no idea how to rank this guy because it's almost like the chicken or the egg situation, because you look at last year, right? I have my worries about him being the guy that we see as the big target in Atlanta, because if you saw it last year, sorry, just a bit of COVID coming back.
Yeah.
If you saw it last year, once Ridley went and everyone knew the ball was going to Pitts, they just started putting their best defensive piece on him, and he was just getting completely taken out of the game. Like if you saw all his best games were when Ridley was there, because he was able to sort of just flourish a bit, and they weren't sort of looking at him all the time. And I've got worries about that.
That was the one chance he had when no one knew Ridley was going to be out. He was out. No one had time to adjust. Pitts had a huge game, and then that was the last huge game for Pitts.
Yep. Yeah. And that was when I played against Pete Ryan in Astro. It was great.
Wasn't that against the Jets? Wasn't that against the Jets?
It was overseas, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the London game. And the Jets actually, they don't recognize other teams have a tight end. Then they just refuse to cover it. No, we don't believe in tight end. It's like Narnia. I don't think it exists.
They just funnel the running backs to the end zone as well. They're great at that. So Pitts, it's really, really hard, as I was saying, to sort of rank him, because it's like, was it just because he was a rookie that he struggled in the second half of the year? Because everyone knows that tight ends take a while to get really, into the feel of the NFL. So it's kind of hard to then also guarantee that's going to happen again. He could have just been having a bit of hitting a rookie wall in the second half of the year. So it's sort of hard to work out if it was just because, he became the number one guy and they put their best players on him, or whether he was just having the rookie season where he sort of fell apart a little bit in the second half of the year. He could come out and just be so good this year that no one can defend him. He's just an absolute freak. So he really has the widest range of outcomes out of almost any player. So I'll be really interested to see it. I thought 7 was very much just sitting on the fence in the middle of those outcomes that I think he could be. I don't think I'll have him, honestly, because of those range of outcomes. That sort of freaks me out a bit. And it's because he's sort of mid-rounding in the tight end position. I'm similar to Matty C, where I'm kind of like either taking Kelsey Andrews or I'm sort of waiting till like probably the 13th one off the board. So we'll just wait and see what happens. Yeah. But yeah, look, there is baked in upside there though. So if you're looking for upside in the tight end, I've got no issue with you taking him.
It's an interesting spot. So we've got both parts of it. I just don't know how we set something up here, but there's got to be something where Manjot's like actually kind of see him being fairly steady and Taylor being like, no, he's going to be here and here, and there's no middle.
Yeah.
I don't know how we set this up. We're going to have to get you to fight over that somehow. Leave it with me. The little grey cells will work on that one.
It's so funny though, because like I could see him just ending up at 7-2. Like it's so weird. Like there's range of outcomes, but then he could just fall right in the middle of it. It's unbelievable trying to work out this guy.
Yeah, because I believe both of you. That's my problem. I believe both of you.
If he was in like the 6th worst offense in the league, like I would be all over him. Like I'd be thinking this guy's ready for the biggest breakout in history, but because he's like literally in the bottom 2 of offenses this year, it just makes it so hard.
Well, do we think their defense is going to be okay, or do we actually think and they'll have chances to put together decent offensive drives, or we just think they're going to be hurling it because they're going to be behind? Like, what do we think of the Falcons?
Yeah, I think it's Hurl City, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, minus AJ Terrell and I think Grady Jarrett, they don't really have too many on the defense. There's a few quality players apart from them, but there's not too much as a unit that you can really trust that defense to make stops, in my opinion.
It's funny because last year I thought it was their tank year and they ended up with like 8 wins or something.
Yeah,
seven or 8 wins. It was unbelievable.
And Arthur Smith thinks he has this game plan to run the ball because he had Derrick Henry when he was the offensive coordinator, but he thinks he can replicate that in any team. So they'll probably just run the ball way too much.
And what we found out last year is Mike Davis is definitely Derrick Henry. We found that out for sure. Yes. There is no question.
Yeah. He's also a skinless dog on a plastic plate.
One of those sad disposable plates. No sauce. You don't get sauce. This isn't like a barbecue on election day.
Not a bunning snag.
Not at all. No, that is a quality snag. This is the one we were the furthest apart on, because I think everyone's got a different range of outcomes on this. Taylor, I'm going to start with you because you were the believer in Dalton Schultz. You've got him ranked at 5, and it helps him be our tight end 7 on the consensus. I've got to get your understanding on this. Why is he 5?
I'm all in, mate. I think I wanted to make him my breakout, tight end that I always get wrong every single year, but we worked out that he kind of finished too high last year, so I'm going to have to find someone else. But I still want it known that I wanted it to be him, so I'm still going to plant my flag there.
Taylor's a year late breakout tight end. We'll call him that.
Absolutely. Yeah, never wrong, just late, apparently.
Just
instead
late,
of early.
I love that. I love that.
That's the end of mine else. Anyway, I actually would have him in that tier with Waller and Kittle. I'm so all in on him this year. I think he's fantastic in the tight end position. That offense is going to keep throwing. You know, you lose Amari Cooper. That's a lot of targets that goes out the window there. So the vacated targets is enormous for Dalton Schultz. And they just didn't really replace the wide receiving core with anyone you're too worried about. Like, it doesn't look like Michael Gallup's going to be ready week 1. It's basically the CD Lamb and Dalton Schultz show. Like, I honestly don't even really know who else they could go. You know, you'll have to remind me. I can't remember the rookie's name off the top of my head that they took early, but he's still going to – I don't think he's going to get integrated straight away. So I really think it's going to be Schultz and Lamb. And I just think in that offense, it's such an awesome opportunity for Schultz, and he's proven to be a red zone threat. And the fact he finished, 5 last year, I don't think having him 5 really is too high of a number for this year. If anything, he probably has more upside than we're giving him. So I'm all in on him. I think he's going to be an enormous fight.
Now, Manjot, on the other side, you've come in at 7, which is where he winds up in our consensus rankings as well, at 7.33. So a little bit more tempered on him. Explain your position.
Now, I'm actually seeing a little bit more of a drop. It might not be 7, but it's just mainly because of the other tight ends. Now, I think the Taylor was mentioning Jake Ferguson, the tight end that they took in the 4th round.
There was a wide receiver. They took relatively early.
Talbot, wasn't it? Something like that.
Talbot, that's it.
Talbot, Jalen Talbot.
Yeah, Jalen Talbot. They also
makes me think of Mike Talbot. not the same.
Also signed James Washington free agency as well, wide receiver.
Yeah.
So that
helps my point. That helps my point.
Yeah,
they're going to have 2 receivers who wear numbers in the 80s. No team has that anymore. Anyway.
Yeah, this generation, man, a whole different game. But I'm hearing a lot of reports out of Cowboys training camp. Been looking at a few Cowboys pages on Instagram and across Twitter. Very high on Jake Ferguson. The organization's very high on Jake Ferguson as a tight end. So that could play a little bit into Dalton Schultz's fantasy value. They could use a few 2 tight end sets, and Jake Ferguson could take away a few targets. That is just what I'm seeing out of Cowboys training camp recently. I saw at least multiple Cowboys fan pages post about him, and it's crazy to think that a rookie could derail Dalton Schultz. But his franchise tag deadline's coming up soon, so we could see maybe that will be an indicator of whether they re-sign him long-term or they just keep him on the franchise tag, if that's an indicator of his fantasy value this year. So that's something to watch out for. These little signs, these little murmurs coming out of Cowboys training camp is what we could look into here as Jake Ferguson is emerging, and you've got Dalton Schultz. He's might be on a decline here. So few interesting rumors to take into account there when ranking him. I ranked him before I heard all of this, but now I kind of want to rank him a little lower, maybe 8 or 9, but I don't think I can rank the guys behind him that I have over Dalton. So yeah, I'll just probably keep him at 7 for now. Yeah.
Well, and I did. That was the difference for me. I'm just like, well, actually, I don't know that his opportunity is that much better than the guys behind him. So I put the guys behind him in our consensus ranking ahead of him. And that's kind of what's pulled his ranking into being there and having these other guys actually, to me, their opportunity is pretty much the same. So I'm the biggest Dalton Schultz hater, and Taylor's going to just hang it over me every time he has a big game. The part for me, though, I bet the Amari Cooper going, it's a lot of targets going. But, he has 3 big games every year. He's Tyler Lockett. Did you ever know that about Amari Cooper? He's a Tyler Lockett who runs amazing routes, but he has 3 big games a year. I actually don't think it's going to matter that much to Dalton Schultz.
He's a tiny bit more consistent, though, but yeah.
So that was the rationale behind my crazy ranking at 10. I'll put him at 10. I am seething hate for Dalton Schultz, where Taylor is literally writing him love letters at number 5.
Matty, you've got to break in here, mate. I've got a win-win situation here because if Ferguson takes over, it's Ferguson smacks that ass, son. And I'm back.
Hey,
No
he's back.
downside. There's
No
no
downside.
downside. Well, this is going to be a drop for the show, don't you?
Of course.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Taylor Talk time.
Oh, I'd gladly never meet Matty again. Oh, I agree.
that hurts here and
Sorry. Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry, I realize I've got to get the trophy off you, so I take that back.
yes. Then you can shut me out of your life forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Joe, let's stop the foreskinning. Let's stop the foreskinning for some absolutely wonderful segments later. And someone just pegs a dildo.
Yes.
It was a better pass than Mac Jones did all day. Oh, look at all the penalties we had against us. It means the refs screwed us. That contract's as tight as a nun's you know what, mate. So you can't get out of this bad boy. Someone get me an adult nappy because I am moist.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
That's why we're on the podcast together, mate. We take shots at each other. Well done, Taylor. I'm not below shameless self-promotion.
Well, let's move into number 8 because that's Dallas got it. And with these next couple, actually, we might just bundle them together because TJ Hawkinson's behind him. And between the three of us, we all rate them 8 or 9.
Hawkwatch.
So how about that? Hawkwatch is back. And
Hawkwatch.
Tay, you put Hawk ahead of Dallas Goddard, even though we've wound up with them the other way in the consensus. What is it that separates Hawkinson from Goddard for you? Or is it literally just one had to go in front of the other?
I changed it. So I definitely had got it before the AJ Brown news. I just think it took an extra slice out of that very small pie that it already is the passing game of the Philadelphia Eagles. And as much as I think Hurts is going to take a bit of a step forward, I don't think it's going to be enormous. And I just think AJ Brown's going to eat up a fair bit of that while he's not injured. Again, it's splitting hairs. It's Hawkinson. I think the Lions are starting to get better. You can see the think. So I'm really, really putting my foot down on this. I just think in general, it's going to be a similar year to last year for Hawk. I just think he's going to fall around that area. I think he is trusted by Goff. He seems to he gets targeted a lot in some of the games. Obviously, I think it might have coincided with DeAndre Swift not being there, where some of his games were massive. I'll have to look at that. But I just think in general, all their targets seem to go to him or they go to the running backs. It's a real funny situation. Now, in saying that, you do have the breakout of Amon-Ra St. Brown. You also have Jameson Williams going there. I think that's going to be more of a long-term play, Jameson Williams coming off the ACL. But I just think in general, he's trusted there in Detroit. He's always a red zone threat. I do think the offense in general gets a bit better than it was last year. And I just think that's going to help Hawkinson's numbers. I don't think it's going to jump out of the page. I have him slightly ahead of Goddard because Goddard doesn't have really any passing pie there and has to really fight for anything he gets. Whereas I think Detroit actually has the ability to sort of move forward in the passing game.
Well, and then quickly the other way around here, Manjot. Dallas got it ahead of Hawkinson. What say you?
Yeah, I just didn't know how to rank them, to be honest. Look, it's Hurts versus Goff at quarterback.
It's so hard.
How do you choose between shit versus shit, essentially, at quarterback? That's just how I see it. So it's in passing terms, Hurts is a much better rusher. But passing terms, yeah, unless I see Hurts take a huge leap, which will definitely bring up Goddard's value, I just can't rank. I just can't see the difference between those two. Now, I wouldn't mind having Hawkinson over Goddard again. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wrap this up with the number 10 in just a moment. We're going to get a word from our sponsors.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Matty C.
Oh, let's get this out of the way first. Is there anything you all need me to say in my weird accent?
He is ready to go.
I did this to Taylor a lot during Grand Final in Astro League, and he was like, shut up. Mate, I feel like I know who you're going to pick, so it's okay. Sorry, I'm still writing notes. I've just, so many times you said things that I think I could probably turn that into a joke, so I'm just writing it down.
Aussie NFL Fantasy.
They are a true arse sandwich. Bread, arse, bread. This thesaurus is both terrible and terrible.
I've got nothing else.
I'm trying to coax him to just be like, shut up, you dickhead, or have a crack at me, and he's not biting. That is the ice-cold worst take I've ever heard.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Okay, we all good on Australian culture? This is our long suit, right? All right, let's not lose our wood because we've disappeared off to just quickly check in with our moneymakers because we got so many. The next few are super interesting to me because this is that part of tight end that I'm probably playing in. This is in a standard league. To me, all these guys are a little bit the same, except for one. One of these guys I think stands out in a way that the others don't. And I went ahead and put Mike Gesicki as my number 7 tight end. Manjot in the middle. Again, appropriately ranked 10th in the consensus, and you land him at 10. I reckon you did this the most out of all of us too, that your ranking happened to line up just with where they landed the most often out of Talor and I. Because I don't know. Is it just that I'm an idiot and Talor is bold? I don't know what it is, but...
I take a bit out of your two brains and put them in the middle.
It's a fine line, mate.
Talor, you've got nothing but disgust, hate. You can't stand a bit of Mike Gesicki this year. I need to understand what's going on there, man, because, I mean... before I tell you you're wrong about all of it, I've got to understand why.
Yeah, look, mate. Yeah, he sucks. That's it. No, it's honestly as much. It's a funny one because I'm really in on Tua this year. Well, I actually think he is going to take that leap forward. The problem for me is I just don't see it being some upgrade to Gesicki. Like, I just think Gesicki is who we've seen. I know he's a real athletic. He's definitely in the higher end towards the athleticism and the tight end position in the league. But I just think that Tyreek Hill going there is just going to take over so many more targets than you would have seen out of anyone else from the last few years. And then you've obviously also got Jalen Waddle there, who's an absolute target beast himself. I just feel like Tua, as much as he's going to take a leap forward, he's not all of a sudden going to be thrown at 40, 45 times. He's not going to be a high volume guy. And then if you've got Tyreek and Waddle taking a huge chunk of that, I just worried. And then you've also got Chase Edmonds coming in there, who's an awesome pass catcher out of the backfield. I think that's also another opportunity where it's going to take targets away. And I just don't think there's going to be a huge amount left for Gesicki. In saying that, I think he is going to be efficient. I think he's going to be able to do a bit with what he gets. I just couldn't. There was nothing really appealing to me to say, hey, this guy's going to break out and be better than what we've already seen. And so I guess, honestly, when you're doing your rankings, he sort of just fell to the back of my head because I just didn't think there was anything special that I thought was going to happen outside of Tua being better. So there is at least that little bit of baked in upside. But I just think that completely gets taken away by adding a guy like Tyreek Hill. So, yeah, that was pretty much my reasons for not putting him high.
All right. Well, before I tell you why you're wrong, I've got to get Manjot's take on this because Manjot's in the middle again, and I love that.
Yeah. Look, well, I didn't mention his boy Mariota. He didn't mention my boy Mostert, man. Yeah. Mostert's on that team too, so he can get some catches. He can get some runs as well. So a lot of mouths to feed. I'm not as high on Gesicki as Goddard or who was the other one? Hawkinson. Hawkinson. How we can
play the drop from 2021.
Everyone's favorite. It's my favorite segment, by the way.
Learn those names.
But but Gesicki, man, he's very athletic. I'll give him that. That's where I'm going. I think he can get a few more catches in the red zone. So there's some value in the touchdown department there. But other than that, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sold on Gesicki because Tyreek's there, Waddle's there, Edmonds and Mostert are there. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Tua, very big question marks on him this season coming in, but can he get the leap? That is the biggest question. That's what is going to define Gesicki's values, whether Tua makes that leap or not. And
Talor reckons he does,
Yeah. And Gesicki has to get a lot of receptions and a lot of touchdowns. I don't really see him getting too many yards, but receptions and touchdowns will get him there, though, in the fantasy game.
All right. Well, gather around the campfire, guys. Get your marshmallows ready. I'm going to tell you a nice bedtime story about why you're both wrong. I'm not even going to start on the field. I'm going to start with the guy drawing at the plays who came from some little town over on the West Coast. And he had this tight end in his offense over there that was just dominant. coming off the back of a run game with play action, just pounded down your throat, and then the second year looking like it's going to come down your throat. All of a sudden, there's a tight end across the middle who's catching and running and tearing away and scoring touchdowns. And I'm a believer that that's going to still be the case with Mike McDaniel. With the Mike McDaniel offense, I think that's still going to be the case. I think that you see the Shanahan tree has been growing since the late 90s, and Kyle will be absolutely no different. And I've got a lot of belief in that. And where he's had two really dynamic wide receivers in San Francisco, they don't both eat. They don't. And I mean, do I all of a sudden think Tyreek Hill's some bum who's not going to get any targets? Well, no. I also don't think he's going to be nearly what he was in Kansas City. So, and we'll talk about this when the wide receiver rankings come out, because guys like Waddle and Tyreek Hill will be really polarizing guys. I think people are either going to be all in or all out on some of them, and it's going to be such a mess until we see some of these guys on the field. And you've got to stick a flag somewhere. And this is where I think, from having seen what I've seen from the offense that's coming into this building, I'm a big believer in Mike Gesicki. And I think we're probably at some stage going to have to ward about this sucker, you and I, Taylor. Because I don't know if you think Mariota's going to break out, but you don't think it's going to the Mike Gesicki. I do. I feel like that's just prime territory.
I've got another place you could stick that flag, mate.
Do we save that for when we're not on a family show? Is that?
Oh, sorry. I forgot. We're G-rated, are we?
Yeah, we totally are. No. So, look, I've done a lot to drag Mike Gesicki up to being the 10th tight end overall. And this is about with the range where I'm going to be hunting for a tight end anyway. So if I can get Mike Gesicki, because no one else is believing in him and I love the hell out of him, then sweet, give me all the Mike Gesicki I can handle. There's a massive chance I'm going to own him in a bunch of these leagues this year. And see what happens there.
You have to fight off Mark Downey for him, mate, I think.
Probably. I mean, so how many Dolphins is that guy going to be able to fit in his teams? Because how early do you have to go to get Tyreek Hill? How early do you have to go to get Jalen Waddle? We'll find out. He'll definitely have room to get Mike Gesicki. But how early is he going to have to go? There's 53 running backs at the Dolphins. Yeah. How many rounds is he going to take running backs?
There's way more than 53. There's way more than that.
I mean, I was trying to count them the other day, and I've only got so many fingers and toes. I struggled. Now, we're out of the top 10 in our consensus ranking for tight ends. And this is where I think it gets pretty interesting, because now we get into the range of guys who we're only ranking 15 each. Unless you're Manjot, who went out and ranked 36 of them. Thank you, brother.
Rank the backups.
Look, I have to rank. You have to rank up until 20 for the mathematical formulas and stuff to work for the consensus. Because then, if you're going to leave blank spaces in the spreadsheet, then it's going to make the averages mess up.
Yeah, I literally went back and just made everyone who wasn't in the top 30 at running back 31, just to give them all a number.
So I'm just saying, mathematically, that's how.
And we should probably do something like that where it affects the overall number. I don't know that would make a huge amount of difference for guys like Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, Pat Freiermuth. I think essentially these guys, no matter what we did with the formula, these guys would all be in that range. And we all like one guy or another a little more than the next person. Hunter Henry comes in at 11. Manjot's got him at 11. Do you want to talk me through the Hunter Henry love?
I just don't know. I just don't know why I ranked it that high. But honestly,
have a do-over. Who are you going to put?
I'm just no. The reason, look, I just don't know how to rank all these 11 to 15 dudes.
Do any of us?
Yeah, the TikTok / Instagram reel I'm gonna make for this. Gonna have to try and find a bit of highlights somewhere. It's probably gonna be in old jerseys for all of them. But with Hunter Henry, he's gonna be, well, maybe in a Chargers jersey, but he's gonna be pretty much a safety net for Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones, very conservative quarterback, does a lot of checkdowns, maybe a few 5-yard throws. That's it, more in the Hunter Henry ball game. End zone, the red zone sort of thing. That's Hunter Henry's range. Yep. I think Hunter Henry, I'm going to call it, I'm going to say he's going to be a potential breakout candidate at tight end this year, or bounce back, depending on if he had better seasons in years past. I just can't remember. And health. Yep. Remember when Stephen A said he was playing a game when he had a torn ACL, by the way? Just talking about his health. But
I think he also mentioned that Danny Woodhead was playing that game when not only had he retired, he'd been at another team in between. I think,
it was the weirdest segment of that take of all time.
Have a 5-hour energy, man. You're struggling.
Stay off the weed. But anyway, I just gotta say, Mac Jones to Hunter Henry. It could be a good duo in 2022. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, that's as good a case as I think you need to make for guys in this range. I don't know how much of a case you need to make at number 11 for you, Tay. You went with Robert Tonyan. I don't know. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's obviously just, again, vacated targets and a very good passing offense with Aaron Rodgers there. You know, you lose God knows how many targets Devontae Adams took up last year. Then there's also you even lose the deep threat of Valdez Scantling. It takes away a lot of targets in that team, and Aaron Rodgers in his last few years isn't just going to go, oh, we'll just run the ball all the time. You know, he's not exactly the nicest guy that'll just take a step back for his team. You know, he's would ask for 50 million when the cap's 47. Like, that's the kind of guy he is. He's going to try and win titles with what he has, and I just think he knows Tonyan really well. Obviously, it's going to be one of those ones you have to check in on his health, coming back from that really bad injury last year. So if he's not there week one, obviously that's going to throw out the ranking and stuff like that. But I just think I'm going to take a shot that he is, because I just think there's an enormous opportunity for a guy that's, Rodgers has his guys that he trusts. And I brought this up on our last pod that it worried me about whatever rookie went there, because I just think that he needs to trust a person before he starts peppering them with targets. And I think Tonyan's one of the most trusted guys in that receiving core, just because pretty much everyone else left. So it's basically him and Alan Lazard now that he actually trusts. So I think that's all the upside you need from a tight end, especially in this range.
I cannot wait to see how high your Alan Lazard ranking is. But on the same subject,
didn't quite equate with the same logic.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that explanation then. In the same logic, though, I did the same thing with Pat Freiermuth. Enough things moved in Pittsburgh. Someone's going to be throwing the ball there. Someone's going to be catching it. It can't be Deontay Johnson every time. Well, Pat Freiermuth is probably as good an option as anybody else. I mean, the other guys who've got in this range too are fellas like, Taylor was up there with Zach Ertz, put him at 10. I'm going to find it hard to argue with that. I had him on the 15 end of it because to me, a lot of these guys are really, you don't know what you're going to get. Manjot,
can I just say?
Yep, sorry.
I was just going to say, I reckon I'll actually have a fair bit of Zach Ertz. Like, he's actually the kind of guy that I could see actually jumping into that sort of 6 to 10 range at the end of the season, just especially in the first 6 weeks without DeAndre Hopkins. You saw when Hopkins wasn't there last year, Kyler really went to him a lot once he got there to Arizona. And that was basically coming straight into the team, leaving Philly. Now that he's got an entire preseason, off-season with the team, God knows what Kyle's actually doing during this time, but he's throwing fits and, deleting teams off his Instagram and shit. But I think when he actually gets there and eventually, realizes that he's going to stay and play, I think they're going to actually have a good rapport with each other. And I actually think Zach Ertz is actually going to be probably too low drafted. I don't think he's got the upside to be like a top 3 or something, but I think he's the kind of guy who's going to give you consistent production in that position. Wow.
And he'll cost you bugger all. Manjot, have you kind of got a shot in the dark guy down here in this part of the world too, where Taylor's pretty much saying, hey, look, if you're going to take a shot in the dark, you could take a worse shot than Zach Ertz. Do you have a guy like that you just want to mention before we wrap up tight end?
Ertz or Freiermuth for me are 2 very good ones. Also, Tonyan, I think I'm going to stash him on a bench in a few leagues. I think he's going to be very underdrafted, going to be very late round drafted for Tonyan. I think I'm going to put him as tight end 2 in a few leagues, just stash him on the bench. If he's breaking out, I'm definitely going to take the chance because I think that's where I'm going to go. If I'm in round 15, round 16 of my 10-team PPR, I'm going to actually stash Tonyan in a few benches if he's still available because some people won't be taking him. Some leagues won't be taking him that high. We'll be seeing on our mock drafts in a few weeks. But
you get 7 guys on the bench in an ESPN PPR standard league. That's a lot of guys.
Yeah,
That's where you take Pitts and you take Tonyan, and then if Tonyan looks like he's breaking out, you wait for the one really good Pitts game, and then you ship him in a trade to somewhere else and just run Tonyan as your tight end, and then you've just picked up a good wide receiver or something.
Yeah, there you go.
And trading with Taylor is going to be its own series, by the way. Just don't feel like you're going to miss out on that. That's coming.
It's a 35-part mini series coming out just before the season
on our TikTok.
And the way this is working too, I've got my crack league of mine, Manjot, working with Taylor's people to try and make this happen, and it is. Yeah, they negotiate like Taylor. It's fucking difficult.
Instagram exclusive or TikTok exclusive, or this is going to be on the podcast itself.
Taylor, yeah.
Without foreskinning, the number one chapter is picking which of your family to trade first in any trades.
Because everyone's got a favorite kid in their family, but the trick is you just never tell which kid your favorite is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just hope they never find these episodes.
Exactly right. But you never name them. Of course not. Gosh, you don't want to create division.
No. Yeah, of course not. And then Docs is going to be right at my front door.
Guys, I can't believe we've done it. We've got tight end done. I actually had a lot more fun with that than I thought we were going to have because we aligned in a lot of spots. And that was actually a really interesting conversation considering that. But gee, I'm looking forward to the wide receiver show because there is some fights to be had.
I've got to plug in my phone. I forget how much it friggin' drains it. So it's probably not a bad time.
Yeah. Speaking of plugs, we got plug in Aussie NFL Fantasy.
Do it all.
Everywhere. Instagram. We're on TikTok nowadays. You guys got that old age email for those people who use email. You leave those voice messages on Anchor to get on the show. Heck, who knows? YouTube. Yeah, that's where you can see all our faces on YouTube. That's how you know what we look like. Yeah. And the TikTok content going to be coming out. Instagram coming out. Instagram Reels going to be doing 2 posts on Instagram a day, about 7 posts on TikTok a day. We don't know. We're just going to be running those things like crazy. We're going to be running it up. Yeah. So
it'll be like our show. We don't even have a heap to say, but we'll be on there.
No.
Yeah. No off season for us. No off season.
Please don't block us from just being ridiculously annoying.
Yeah. No unfollowing.
No, at this point, if they're here, they're used to the ridiculously annoying.
You're right. If they've come this far.
And to Manjot's point, all of these places, we are Aussie NFL Fantasy. So if you whack that into a search engine on any of these things or any search bar in these apps, you will find us, and we are very easy to distinguish because of our bright green and gold colors because we're going all in Aussie. Fellas, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to catching up with you again real soon for the wide receiver show. Take care, fellas.
No worries. Eat shit, Golden State.
That'll do.
And he starts going like he goes absolutely mental and then like nearly explodes.
Like the game show version of playing Nick Kyrgios there.
Ozzy?
So just to clarify, one team scores more points and they both lost to the Jets. So you have to take the team that scores more points.
Yes.
NFL?
You guys made me really thirsty with all those like trophy picks. Like
the trophy is making me thirsty.
Fantasy.
Who won starts the week, by the way?
Let's not talk about it.
Okay, right. On to the next one.
This is what 20 years of being a Jacksonville Jaguars fan does to a man, I reckon.
I feel like this was so much easier when I wrote it down. You guys are making this sound so hard.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
But it was in the Brady era, yeah.
Everything's in the Brady era, mate.